Trump says authorities are making progress in hunt for Charlie Kirk's killer. Charlie Kirk killed by single supersonic bullet, audio forensics expert says. Audio captured near the podium where Charlie Kirk was speaking yesterday afternoon suggests the conservative activist was hit with a single supersonic gunshot, according to audio forensics expert Rob Marr. Supersonic rounds are fired from high-powered weapons. This finding rules out the possibility that a small handgun or similar weapon which fires rounds below the speed of sound was used in the attack. Marr says that a signature, crack, and pop pattern, heard in the audio recording, suggests that the single bullet was fired from a rifle. Audio forensics alone cannot confirm the weapon's model or variant. Marr's analysis found that the time between the ballistic shock waves, crack, and muzzle blast's successive, pop, was approximately 240 milliseconds. With that time interval and an inferred bullet speed of 800 meters per second, the firearm would have been located about 153 meters from Kirk's podium. This finding aligns with CNN's analysis that, based on visual evidence, the shooter took aim at Kirk from roughly 150 yards away. Conservatives say they won't be silenced or intimidated by Kirk's killing. Doug Deason, a Republican donor in Dallas, awoke Thursday to a long text chain from fellow contributors to Turning Point USA, the conservative organization Charlie Kirk led. One person in the thread announced plans to double their contributions to the group and asked the others if they were ready to help build up the organization. "Every one of us said, yes, I'm in," Deason said. In the hours since Kirk's death Wednesday after a shooting at a campus event, his allies have vowed to channel their grief and anger into developing a new, younger generation of conservative politicians and activists. Fellow conservatives have said they won't be silenced or intimidated by Kirk's murder, part of a growing wave of political violence, including 2 assassination attempts against President Donald Trump and other attacks on figures in both political parties. They have argued that the best way to honor Kirk's memory is to finish his work. Deason, who serves on Turning Point's advisory council and introduced Kirk to then-candidate Trump at a 2016 fundraiser, said there's no question that the organization will carry on its mission. "I believe in the cause. I believe in what he was doing, that we've got to go into campuses," he said. "We've got to override these radical professors, and frankly, the media, teach the elements of free speech so we can have dialogues and debate, without violence." Utah authorities just released a new update on their search for Kirk's killer. Here are the key points. As you may remember, officials had postponed a news conference this afternoon, citing rapid developments in the case. Though it's not clear what those developments are, the Department of Public Safety, DPS, did just release an update saying there is still no suspect in custody. Law enforcement personnel continue the search for any and all potential suspects related to this incident. Multiple leads are currently being investigated, the update said. Since most of the information had been released earlier today, here's a quick rundown of the update from the DPS. Screenshots of the potential shooter, pulled from security footage, have been released to the public. The FBI has announced a reward of up to $100,000 for any information that leads to the identification and arrest of the shooter. The FBI is also analyzing a high-powered bolt-action rifle that was recovered from the area where the shooter is believed to have fled. DPS is not providing details or photos of the weapon and ammunition. Forensic samples under investigation include a footwear impression, a palm print and forearm imprints. DPS also warned that it will cite and confiscate any drones detected in the crime scene area. Law enforcement has received more than 200 tips from public so far. Trump just spoke to reporters about Kirk's killing as he left the White House. Here's what he said. President Donald Trump spoke to journalists a short time ago as he left the White House. Here's a quick recap of his remarks. "Big progress, in search. I hear they're making big progress, and we'll have to see what happens," Trump said of the ongoing manhunt in Utah for the gunman who killed conservative activist Charlie Kirk. Trump spoke with Kirk's widow. The president said Kirk's widow, Erica, is devastated. "We had a long talk, and she's devastated," Trump told reporters. "She's absolutely devastated, as you can imagine." Funeral plans. Trump said he plans to be on hand when a service is held for Kirk in Arizona in the coming days. On his own safety, asked whether he was concerned about his security following yesterday's assassination, Trump said, "Not really. Protective measures have been ramped up in the wake of the shooting." The state of the country, instead, Trump said his concern was for the nation at large and again, without providing evidence, blamed the radical left for political violence in the country. "We have a great country. We have a radical left group of lunatics out there, just absolute lunatics, and we're going to get that problem solved. I'm only concerned for the country," he said. Trump said he would encourage his supporters to follow a model of non-violence in responding to the shooting. Trump says investigators are making big progress on finding Kirk's killer. Investigators are making big progress in the search for the person who fatally shot Charlie Kirk, according to President Donald Trump. I hear they're making big progress, and we'll have to see what happens, Trump told reporters today before boarding Marine One en route to New York. Trump added that the shooter was an animal, and vowed to deal with him very appropriately. When asked if he had any thoughts on the shooter's motivation, Trump declined to go into detail. I have an indication, yeah, but we'll let you know about that later, he said. Trump says he plans to attend Kirk's funeral. President Donald Trump said he plans to attend Charlie Kirk's funeral in Arizona in the coming days. They've asked me to go, Trump told reporters at the White House today. The president said he believed the funeral would be next weekend, but added that whenever it happens, he would be there. I think I have an obligation, he said. Vice President J.D. Vance was expected to accompany Kirk's casket aboard Air Force Two today as it travels to Arizona from Utah, where Kirk was shot and killed. Senators expressed concerns about their own safety after Charlie Kirk's assassination. We're hearing from Republican lawmakers who are worried about their own safety in light of conservative activist Charlie Kirk's assassination. Senator Markwayne Mullin, security was already a concern after the assassination of a Minnesota Democratic state lawmaker in June, Mullin said, but since Kirk's shooting, the Oklahoma Republican says he's received several calls from members and their spouses. Mullin, who is chair of the Legislative Branch Subcommittee of the Senate Appropriations Committee, said it's undeniable now that we've got to beef up security on every member. Lawmakers have started the process of determining the cost, scale and threat levels, he said, but there are also some policy and funding hurdles to mitigate. Senator Tom Tillis. Lawmakers need to be situationally aware when they're back home in their districts, Tillis said. Hopefully we don't have to get to a point to where we're dealing with security levels that require Secret Service, but everybody needs to be on guard, he added. Senator Kevin Cramer. The North Dakota Republican says he began holding fewer, highly public events, where he lacks control, and increasing his media appearances. I like being accessible, but being accessible is starting to look like being vulnerable. So I think there's a lot of us that are concerned about that, he said. U.S. Marshals have joined the search for Charlie Kirk shooter, source says. The U.S. Marshals Service, the agency tasked with locating and arresting fugitives, has now joined the search for the person who shot and killed Charlie Kirk, one law enforcement source told CNN. The U.S. Marshals Service had offered to help with the search in the immediate aftermath of the shooting, but that offer was not accepted until the second day of the manhunt, which is still being led by the FBI. It's unclear why the Marshals were not involved previously in the search as other officers from different agencies, including Homeland Security Investigations, a branch of the Department of Homeland Security, have been seen canvassing the neighborhood where investigators believe the shooter initially fled following the attack. Law enforcement officials have stressed that as each hour ticks away and the shooter is not located, the search becomes increasingly difficult. Retired FBI Supervisory Special Agent James A. Gagliano told CNN that if the search expands, that's when the FBI would absolutely bring the marshals. In a crime scene like this, you want to keep your perimeter nice and tight. The problem with this is he could be anywhere, Gagliano said, noting the local highways and airports where the suspect may have fled. You can't just be looking in the neighborhoods and expecting him to be hidden behind a garbage can, but that's a possibility, Gagliano, a former CNN analyst, noted. Officials urge public's help to identify Kirk shooting suspect as they release new video. The fatal shooting of Charlie Kirk and the subsequent swarms of law enforcement officers looking for his killer have shattered the usual calm in a neighborhood next to Utah Valley University, CNN affiliate KSTU reported. It's disturbing because you don't know if this person is still around, one woman who lives there said, adding, it is scary to think of that this person came so close to us and to our neighbors. Law enforcement officers canvassed the neighborhood all day and into the evening after Kirk was killed Wednesday, she told KSTU. She said police searched an area near her backyard for any trace of the shooter. Residents have been turning any home surveillance video they have over to police, another resident said, calling his neighborhood a safe place, a calm place. Utah House Democratic leaders call for de-escalation after Kirk shooting and threatening voicemail. One day after the fatal shooting of Charlie Kirk, Utah House Democrats denounced political vitriol, noting they received a threatening phone call, CNN affiliate KSTU reported. In a voicemail left on the House Minority Caucus general number and obtained by KSTU, A man is heard calling Democratic state lawmakers murderous, terrorist animals. Democratic State House Minority Leader Angela Romero told KSTU she was alarmed by the threatening message. "We don't know who the shooter was, we don't know what their intent was," Romero told KSTU. "Somebody was murdered, somebody was executed, and we all agree that was wrong." Romero said vitriol has escalated in recent years, but I think we can tone it down if we all work together. "I don't know if everyone is willing to do that," she added. State House Speaker Mike Schultz, a Republican, also condemned political violence, KSTU reported. "Political violence should never happen, any type of violence should never happen, and the fact that it's continuing to happen, the Minnesota shootings a few months ago, now this. We can do better," he said, referring to the fatal shootings of Minnesota's former House Speaker Melissa Hortman and her husband in June. Analysis. An entire way of doing politics is at risk. America may be getting too dangerous for politics. The assassination of Charlie Kirk, President Donald Trump's ambassador to youthful conservatives, has stirred such a sense of shock that some lawmakers are now rethinking the kind of freewheeling, outdoor campaigning that his barnstorming college tours were meant to preserve. The risks courted by those who mount a public pedestal were laid bare a day after Kirk's murder in Utah, a sickening capstone on 12 months of political violence. The balance between political free association and security that every candidate must assess now risks being tilted toward restricted indoor gatherings, smaller audiences, and less interaction with voters. That would mean politics, already being tarnished by the social media swamps where it's increasingly conducted, would risk becoming even more radicalized, distanced from voters, and dominated by stunts rather than issues. "I like being accessible, but being accessible is starting to look like being vulnerable," North Dakota Republican Senator Kevin Cramer said Thursday. One change after the killing of Kirk, at a big outdoor event, might be to move gatherings indoors. "I think one of the ways you mitigate risk is by not having big open-air events anymore, and that's too bad," Cramer said. "I'd hate to lose the opportunity to just bump into people and have a conversation." Kirk supporters see his killing as an inflection point for the young conservative movement, reporter says. Charlie Kirk supporters see his killing as an inflection point, Time magazine's national political reporter Eric Cortellessa told CNN's Abby Phillips. Cortellessa, who wrote Time's cover story, "The Killing of Charlie Kirk and the Political Violence Haunting America," said the killing may become a rallying cry for his supporters and could further galvanize young people's shift toward the conservative movement. Speaking alongside Cortellessa, Will Sommer, senior reporter at news site The Bulwark, said a presidential run certainly could have been something in his future. Despite being so young, Kirk had an enormous political machine behind him, Sommer said. He was sort of unique in a way, because he was a right-wing media figure with a huge platform, but he also had this enormous organization, Turning Point USA, that had connected him with so many people, both activists and politicians. Utah Valley University student recalls seeing man walking on or near Losee Center roof twice in 2 weeks. A Utah Valley University student told CNN on Thursday night he saw a man walking on or near the roof of the Losee Center twice in the last 2 weeks. The student said he was not sure it was the same person depicted in photographs released by police in connection with Charlie Kirk's killing, but that the individual looked familiar. The student said it was unusual to see someone on that part of the roof. It was weird, he said. The student said he last saw the person on the roof last Wednesday at noon, a week before the shooting. He told CNN that he reported his observations to the FBI tip line after the shooting, but has not heard back. The student described the man as a tall, skinny-ish white dude, who had dark hair. He had this backpack on and was wearing dark clothes. He added that the man was looking down at the courtyard area where Kirk's speaking engagement was later held. At the time, the student said, he thought it unusual for a person to be near the roof, but he did not report it to authorities. He said a professor also noticed the man on the roof and called out to him. According to the student, the professor asked, "Hey, man, are you doing all right?" And the man on the roof just kind of dismissed what he said. "We cannot do our job without the public's help," Governor Cox says as search for shooting suspect continues. Utah's Governor Spencer Cox is pleading with the public to speak out if they believe they know anything that could lead to the arrest of a shooter in the killing of Charlie Kirk. "We cannot do our job without the public's help right now," Cox said. "The public has answered our call for action. So far, the FBI has received more than 7,000 leads and tips related to the shooting at Utah Valley University," Cox said. The last time the agency received that many digital media tips from the public was following the Boston Marathon bombing in 2013, Cox said during a news conference tonight.